Hello, guys. Good evening. I hope you all are doing good today. So, today we are continuing our video on the Python series. So, today it'll be our eighth video, that is a continued one in this. So, previously we started with learning about strings, isn't it? So, this is the further next video that is going to talk about the methods within the strings. But before we look into the video, who are we? We are Data Valley, the fastest growing edtech company of 2025. If you ask what we do to you, we provide you with IT solutions, trainings, and placement support. So you might be at any part of your career. We are here to help you and guide you and get the best for you. So feel free to check out our website at datavalley.ai. There you can find a number. You can reach out to our colleague, and our colleagues will be able to further help you in your progress. So, myself, Franklin, I'm working as a data engineer for almost 3+ years. So, that is my short brief. And today I'll be taking over this Python series part 8 video. So, you all know the routine. Grab your notes, grab your coffee, pay attention, make sure that you learn as much as possible. If you're confused about any topics, feel free to drop your questions in the comment sections. Either in this video or in the next video, I'll try to address those questions for you. That's it. We'll jump to the video now. So in the previous video, we learned about what is a string and how to create a string. And followed by that, we also learned few methods like upper, lower, title, and capitalize. So these are the some of the few basic methods that we use along with our string methods. And today we are going to go further on this one, and it is very interesting. And you might be wondering why I have included the strip method again in this video. The reason being, in the previous one, we ended up with the strip method, but the strip method is further branched into two methods called as lstrip and rstrip. So to not break the momentum, I have included the strip method again into this video. So what is a strip method? So strip method is a built-in method for your string operation. So what this strip method does is it helps you to remove the unwanted characters from both the beginning or leading, you can call it, and then from your end or your trailing end of your string. So basically you are removing any unwanted characters. What are those unwanted characters? Yes, we will talk about it. But all you got to remember is you're going to remove unwanted characters both from your leading and from your trailing end of your string. And what this does is you're not going to have an in-place modification. So I've already explained you what is an in-place modification. So your original string is immutable, right? So that is your character of your string. The original string is going to be remained as an unchanged one, and instead whatever the methods that you're calling on your original string will be applicable to your newly created string. So it returns a new string with the specified characters removed, and it does not modify your original syntax. Let's look into the syntax now. So we have got str dot, that is a dot notation, and you're calling on the method strip method. And inside your round bracket, I've got something called as chars, or you can call it as characters. Okay. So string. So this first part is the string in which you want to call your strip method. So that is your first part. That is your string. And this chars is an optional parameter. And what this chars does is that if you specify any characters, those particular characters will be removed. Okay, and this is an optional parameter. So what would happen if you don't specify any character? So it is simple. When you don't specify any character, by default the action is to get the white spaces removed from your string. Does it remove only the white spaces? No, we will talk about that now. So that's what I meant by unwanted characters, which we'll be seeing it now. So the functionality is it removes the white space, and this is your default behavior when you don't mention the characters to be removed. So what happens is, you call in the strip method and you don't specify any of the uh, you don't specify anything, and after you within your round bracket it just remains empty. And what happens is it removes all your white spaces, your tabs, your new lines, and your carriage returns from both the leading and your trailing end of your string. So whatever the string that you're using to that particular thing, if you make sure that the character's parameter is empty, then you're going to perform an operation that is going to remove all the spaces, tabs, new lines, and carriage returns. So all in one go, it gets removed. Let's see that in a practical implementation so that we get it thorough. Okay, I've created a new string called as my string. Okay, so my string, if you see here, I've got a three white space at the front, and after hello comma world exclamation mark, I've got three more spaces here. And then if you see here, I've got a backslash and then an n, so it denotes a new line. Okay, so what I'm going to perform here is I'm creating a new variable, and to this string I want to make the change, so I'm calling my original string, that is my string, and to my string I'm calling the strip method. So strip method, and I'm not specifying the optional parameter. So what is my optional parameter here? Characters. So I haven't specified any of my characters. So by default, the white spaces, your new lines, your tabs, and your carriage returns get removed. So now when I call this and print it, you can see that it's still running, but I've already executed it, so we can see it now. So the three white spaces from my front hello world has been removed here. After exclamation mark, you can see that the white spaces have been removed, and then the backslash and the n. So it denotes new line, right? So that has been removed. So by removing all your unwanted characters, you have just got your hello world here. And next, now let's see how to remove specific characters from your uh, string. Okay, so to remove specific character, what you got to do is you have to mention what character would you like to get removed. So your characters it can take any kind of characters basically. So it can be a number, it can be an alphabet, it can be anything, any character that you would like to get removed from your original string. So what we will do is I'm creating a new string called Python. Okay, but in here I've got three hyphens at the leading end and in our trailing end. So both our trailing and our leading end is having hyphens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip off this hyphen. Okay, and when I run this, now you can see that my trailing and my leading end is all empty. So what do I mean by empty? The unwanted characters have been removed, and you have just got the string called Python. Okay, so when you want to remove specific character, you have to code it within a bracket. Okay, so you're using a bracket and then you're quoting it, and within the code you're mentioning what character would you like to get removed. So now you might have a question that, okay, does the strip function only removes these kind of spaces, symbol, new lines, or any kind of characters that I mentioned? No. With when I mention you're going to have all the specific characters removed, any characters that you mention within this parameter, it gets removed. uh, Before we jump, I would like to demonstrate an example to you. The reason being, a few people are not aware about the in place modification. So what I've done here is I've got a string called Frank. Okay, that is my original string. And for example, we previously learned about x dot upper function, right? So upper function, what it does, it changes our lowercase characters into uppercase format. So when I try to print this, okay, I'm printing X and I'm printing Y. So what it does is it is going to show me Frank and Frank. So this is my print X and this is my print Y. So what I mean by in place modification is that your original string doesn't get modified. Only the new string that you're creating, only with the changes made, then you create a new string. So you're not altering your original string. Instead, you're creating a new string with the changes in place. For example, let's say I'm printing my original string again. So what does it give? It gives the same original string again, right? So your original string, that is X is equal to Frank, it remains unchanged because strings are immutable. Only to your new string you can make the changes. So you are creating a new string with the X dot upper, so therefore you have got the uppercase letter here. And next one, so what I want to do here is I've got a string with A B C D E F F E D C B A. So we have already seen that we have seen how the default behavior where you remove the white spaces. We have seen sorry. So we have seen how it removes certain symbols from your string, and now let's see how the characters work in our string. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm calling into a new variable called strip data, and then I'm calling my original string here another data dot strip method, and I'm mentioning a b c e. Okay, so if you see here I've got a b c d e f f e d c b a. So feel free to drop your comments in the comment section to know the answer, so so that I can see if you have got it right. So what will happen here is that I want to remove a b c e. So a gets removed, makes sense. B gets removed, makes sense. C gets removed, okay, that's fine. But will the D get removed here? No. Why? Because it is not mentioned in our characters to be removed. Therefore, ABC will be removed, fine. And will the E get removed because it is mentioned in your characters? I would like to know your answers in the comment section. Please drop it. I'll just continue and then I'll come to the answer. So same with your trailing end. So A gets removed because it is mentioned in your characters to be removed, and then B gets removed as well, and then you'll get to remove the C as well, and it will not remove D because it is not mentioned in your characters to be removed. But will it remove the E? So if you are saying that the answer would be A B C, sorry, if you say the answer is D F F D, then I must say that your answer is wrong. Do you know why? Because what happens is that, so you are calling in A B C E, right? Pay attention, this is very interesting and very crucial as well. So when you call in ABC, A gets removed, B gets removed, C gets removed. But now it is meeting up with a character that is not specified in your characters to be removed. So as soon as it sees that, it stops cutting any character after seeing the character that is not mentioned in the characters to be removed. Same with your trailing end as well. So it has seen A, B, and C, but D is not part of the characters to be removed. So once it stops there, it is not going to remove any character, and therefore your answer would be D, E, F, F, E, D. Okay, and now I've got one more string here. So it has A, B, C, D, E, F, F, E, D, C, B, A. So it is same. And now what I want to do is I want to remove A, B, C, D. Okay, so A gets removed, B gets removed, C gets removed, D gets removed. And same with your trailing end as well. A gets removed, B gets removed, C gets removed, and D gets removed. So you have got EFFE. So when I try to get stripped off, then my answer is EFFE. So you have got it right. Okay, now I want to make it a bit more interesting. So what I'll do here is I've got a string with A, B, C, D, E, F, F, D, E, C, B, A. So if you notice, I've got D, E here and C, E here. Okay, it is bit changed. I've changed the order of it. So by strip method, A gets removed, B gets removed, C gets removed, and as soon as it doesn't see the E or any other character, it stops there. So your D is stopped, and any character after your the non-case character that is mentioned in in your characters to be removed, it is going to stay there. So now let's talk about the trailing end. So is there is A? Yes, it gets removed. Is there is B? Yes, so B gets removed. C? Yes. E? Yes. So what is the next character? D. So will the D get removed? No. So your answer should be D, E, F, F, D. If you got that right, yes, you have done a good job. To make it even more interesting, okay? So I've got here A, B, double C, double C, D, E, F, F, D, E, double C, double C, B, A. The reason I just want to mention this is because in our previous we have got A, B, C, A, and I've just got one character for each, and you would be aware that okay, it's going to get it removed. But what would happen if I have a repetitive characters? Let's run it now. Okay, so A gets removed, B gets removed, and you have to be paying attention now to this point. So there is a character called C. Does it remove only one character? No. It is going to remove as long as the character gets consecutively repetitive. For example, C gets removed, C gets removed, C gets removed, C gets removed. Will the D get removed? No, because it is not mentioned in your characters. Same here, A gets removed, B gets removed, C gets removed, and E gets removed as well because E is continuous and it stops at D. And now when I print it, you can see that your answer is D, E, F, F, D. And this final code is going to make sure that you learn the concept very good. So because I've used the characters, you might be confused that, okay, there is E, why the E wasn't removed? Okay, now let's talk in very simple terms. I've gotten here a 5 white space, right? And then after B, I've got like 4 spaces. After E, I've got 4 spaces. And after A, I've got 4 spaces again. So what I'm doing is I'm calling the original string into a strip method, and default behavior is it removes the white space, right? So spaces, tabs, new lines. So these kind of characters from your trailing and your leading end gets removed. So now when I try to call this, what is your expected output? I say that these spaces get removed and these spaces get removed, but not any spaces within this string. The reason is very simple. As long as it sees the white space, it removes it. And when it sees a character that is not specified here, it is going to stop it. And same, no matter what, there is a repetitive spaces inside or any spaces at the middle, is not going to get it removed. And same for your trailing end. It continues to remove your white space. So 4 white spaces at your end, it gets removed. That's fine. But as soon as it sees a character that is not mentioned, it is going to stop there. So if I run this, you can see that you have got A, B, triple C, C, D, E, double F, D, E. You've got 4 spaces there, and then double C, double C, B, A. And now, further, the same concept again. So I've got 5 hyphens at the front of Python, and then I've got like a lot of hyphens at the end as well. And now if you notice, I've got 2 hyphens in between each of the characters here. So P double hyphen, Y double hyphen, T double hyphen, H double hyphen, O double hyphen. So now I want to call into my strip method and say that remove this particular character. Okay, there is a hyphen. So when I call this, you can see that all my hyphens have been removed, but not any hyphen within the character. So P is not mentioned, so it is not going to remove any more hyphens after this. And same if you consider for your trailing end, it just removes your trailing end, but once it stops, it stops. So if you notice, does it change your original string? If you have doubt, you can just have a look on it. But as I said earlier, strings are immutable. Therefore, your original string is always going to remain the same. So your original string just remains the same here. And here are the key points that you must remember. Strip method only affects the leading and your trailing characters. It does not remove characters from the middle of the string. So no matter if there is a white space removal or any specific characters to be removed, once it has stopped, it is not going to remove any more characters from the middle. And then it always returns a new string and does not modify your original string in place. We have seen it earlier just here, right? So you have got Python, which is your new string, but your original string has remained unchanged. And the strip method is further classified into L strip method and R strip method. So what this L strip method does is, so L, you can call it as left strip. So your left is going to be your leading end, right? So whatever is at the beginning, those characters from your leading end or your beginning or your first, from your first, okay, those unwanted characters will be removed. So unlike strip, which removes both the trailing and your leading unwanted characters, L strip just focuses on your left side, that is your leading end, leading start. So the parameter is simple, it's same. So you call in the string in which you would like to have the strip method operated, and then instead of just strip, you mention L strip. So L signifies left, and you have one more strip method called as R strip. So to have your leading end removed, you have to mention L. And then as the strip method, you have got an characters optional parameter as well. Being optional, it is not necessary that you have to remove it, but in case if you mention what character to be removed, those characters only from your leading part of your strings will be removed. Let's talk about the functionality. So if you don't specify your characters argument, only your white spaces get removed by default. So what do I mean by white space? It includes spaces, tabs, new lines, and carriage returns. So it is going to continue this action until it meets a non-white space character. And what would be the behavior if you have the characters argument mentioned? The method will remove any leading character that is present in our character parameter, and it will continue to remove the characters as long as they are found in the character set, and it will stop at the moment it meets the first character that is not mentioned in our parameter block. The order of the characters within the chars argument does not matter. So in our previous example, we mentioned ABCE, right? It doesn't matter even if you mention ECBA, it doesn't matter, because as long as those characters are in your parameter block, those characters will be removed from your leading start of your string. So what is it? What is the return value? So as your strip method, it is going to give you a new string rather than your in place modification. The reason is simple again. Your string is immutable, therefore you cannot modify your original string. So if you want a changes to take place, you have to create a new string, and in this new string you're going to have your modified changes already taken place. So let's see an example. I've got a string called as s1, and it mentions hello Python exclamation mark. And if you notice, I've got three spaces at the front of my hello Python. So by default, the behavior is to remove the white space. So I'm not mentioning any characters here. So now when I call this function, it gives me hello Python. So if you notice the change, there is no space at the front, but in our original string we had our spaces. So now let's talk about removing the specific leading characters. So I've got another string called as S2 with ABCCBA hello. And what I'm gonna do is I want to remove the characters ABC. To make it a bit complicated, I'll just mention as BAC. So what would happen now? So A is present, yes, so A will get removed. B is present, B will get removed. C is present, so C will get removed. So it is going to continue and it is going to just print me hello. Why is that? The reason being, it is going to continue as long as those characters are mentioned in your optional characters to be removed. Now let's talk about the next example. So I've got here a string that says TARRAAPPLE. So now what I want to do is I want to remove the characters RAT, or you can call it rat. So now what happens is that T gets removed, A gets removed, R gets removed, R gets removed, A gets removed, A gets removed. Why is that? Because those characters are mentioned. So irrelevant of order of my specification in the parameter section, those particular characters in the string will get removed. So when I print this, you can see that it prints me PPLE. So that is how you use your lstrip method. Quite opposite to our lstrip method, we have got rstrip method. And with our rstrip method, it is again a built-in method of our string operation. And for this string method, it is a part of our strip method as well. So we have earlier seen about our lstrip method. Now we are going to talk about the rstrip method. So rstrip method also stands for your right strip. So right is going to be your trailing end, right? So that is your trail part. So those unwanted characters from your trailing end will be removed. Let's talk about the syntax. The syntax is you pass in the string in which you would like to perform your rstrip, and then you call your rstrip method using the dot notation, and within the round bracket you mention what characters would you like to get removed. And also if you have paid attention to our previous both of the method, the strip and lstrip method, you should be aware that characters is an optional parameter. So any character that you specify within this will be removed, and by default if you don't mention it, your spaces, tabs, new lines and carriage returns will be removed. Let's talk about the functionality. So the default functionality is that if you don't provide any argument, your default action is going to be removing any white space character. And if you mention the character, anything in your right side or your leading end of your string, those characters will be removed from it. And the return value is same as our previous method. So you're going to get a new string rather than an in-place modification, as strings are immutable. So let's see how it gets implemented in our code example. So I've got an hello world here. I've got two spaces at the front and three spaces at my trailing end. So when I call the strip method, so how am I calling it? I'm passing it into a parameter called result1, and then within I'm calling my original string s1. I'm using dot notation to mention my method. And if you notice here, I mentioned rstrip. Okay, so rstrip is going to remove unwanted characters from my right side or my trailing end. And when I call this, you can see that I've got hello world, but with the spaces mentioned at our front. So I've got two spaces here, and those two spaces are part of my print statement. And next, let's see how to remove specific characters. I've got a string here that says BANANAAN. So I've got a string with multiple characters that is repetitive. And now what I want to do is I want to remove specific character that is AN. What is the expected answer here? So the answer would be, so it is going to remove the characters from my trailing end. So n gets removed, a gets removed, n gets removed, a gets removed again, a gets removed, n gets removed, a gets removed, n gets removed, a gets removed, and it is not going to remove b as it is not mentioned in our parameters. So my answer is b. If you check that, yes, I've got the answer b here. And now let's see what would be the behavior for our string where you don't mention any suitable or relevant character. So I've got a string here that says apple pie. And now what I want to do is I want to remove the characters XYZ. But there is no XYZ in my original string. So would it throw error or would it print something? It prints you the answer rather than throwing out an error. And now let's see, I've already told you, right? It removes the white spaces. What if I have a mixed combination of all these characters? So I've got here test data. If you notice here, I've got a new line that is my backslash in. I've got a tab specified that is backslash t, and you cannot see it, but I've got a space here, right? So you can see a dot here. So it says that there is an empty white space there. And now I'm just specifying what characters I want to get removed. So if I mention rstrip dot rstrip method and remove a space, a new line, and a tab, what does it do? It should print me test data. Has it printed? Yes, it has printed me test data. But you might be wondering, isn't that the default behavior? Why I have mentioned a space, a new line, or a tab? And let's test it out. So I've got the same string again here. So what I'll do is I'll try to remove the white spaces without any mention of what characters to be removed. So you all know the default behavior, right? So by default, it removes your white spaces. So it is going to give me the same answer as we have seen here. So if you notice here, even if I mention, the answer is same. And even when I don't mention, the default behavior takes place and it is printing me the same result, that is test data. Okay. Let's talk about the replace method now. So the replace method is a built-in method again in your string. So what this replace method does is it is going to replace the occurrences of a specified substring with a new string. So let's say you have a big string, okay, which says, for example, like Python is a programming language. And now I want to remove, or I mean, not remove, sorry, I want to replace. So I want to replace a word called programming, okay. So instead of programming, I want to mention Python is a fun language. So what I can do is I can replace the word programming with a new word called fun. At the end of the day, both of them are string. And I'm just replacing a substring with a new string. And Python strings being immutable, you're not going to get an in place modification, but instead you will be creating a new string with all the replacements that you mentioned, making sure that your original string is unchanged, but a new string has your changes applied to it already. And the syntax goes like your string dot replace method, and your replace method takes in three parameters. So the three parameters are old, new, and count. So what does these words define? So the word old would refer to your the substring that is already in your original string. So you want to remove this particular substring from your original string. So that is your existing string. And new is, so with what would you like to remove I mean, with what would you like to replace your old string or your existing substring? So you mentioned, for example, programming. So instead of programming, that is your existing string. So you mentioned that in your old parameter, and in your new parameter, you mentioned what would you like to replace it with. So your programming would change to a fun. So your new parameter will take the word fun, and then it has a third parameter called as count. So count is an optional parameter. So this optional parameter is going to take the integer as a value. So what this does is when you specify a specific number, that is the maximum number of replacements that will happen in your string. So if you specify only two, so let's say your original string is having the word Frank multiple times, let's say 10, and now you are specifying you want to just replace Frank with some other name, let's say Angel, with only 5 times. You don't want to change every Frank in my string. So what you do is you specify number 5, and therefore in your string you're going to have 5 Frank and 5 Angels, because 5 Franks have been replaced with the word Angel. And let's see how it works. The replace method searches the string for all instances of old. For each instance found up to the count limit if specified, it substitutes old with new. The result is a new string containing these substitutions. So what happens is that first, it searches for all the instances of my old string. So the first parameter, old, right? It looks if those particular substring is present in my original string. And for each of those instances found, okay, it compares it to the count limit. So if there is count limit specified, it makes sure that it has a it has found only those particular number of instances. And the default behavior is that it will change every characters or every substring or matching old substring. So if you don't specify your count number, it is going to just replace every particular substring from your original string. So the string being immutable, you will get a new string. Okay. Now let's see how it works in our code implementation. So I'm creating a new string called as hello world, hello Python. I just want you to pay attention to this string. So hello H is capital here, and H in here is a small letter. And now what I want to do is I want to replace all my occurrences of hello with hi. So wherever I see hello here, so you can see two hellos here. So one is starting with a capital letter H, and the other one is a small letter H. So what I want to do is I want to replace the small letter hello with hi. So I'm calling in a new variable, and then I'm mentioning my original string, that is my string dot. So this is going to be my method call dot replace. So I'm mentioning just two parameters here, that is my default or required parameters, hello and hi. So hello is my old, that is the substring that I want to find in my original string, and hi is my new string that I would like to replace in my original string. So now when I call this, you can see that my method has worked, and it has replaced the hello here with the hi. So the first hello remains. Why is that? Because replace method is case sensitive. So if you don't specify small letter h, it is not going to make any changes to it. Only it is going to alter the matching case letters. And now what I want to do is I want to specify my third parameter, that is count. So if you see here, I mentioned count here. Okay. So in here, I will mention a value as 1. So that is my count. So hello, hi. So hello is my old existing substring, and hi is my new substring. So I want to have just one string replaced. So I'm calling my original string, that is my string here, as you see here. So when I try to replace it, you can see that the change has taken place, and it says that hello world, hi Python. Now you might be wondering, okay, there is just one hello there, so what's the point of mentioning one? Okay, now let's test it then with two hellos. Okay, so if you see here, I've got hello world, I've got hello Python, and then I've got hello Frank. So all the hellos are small letters, so H, 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 if you notice. And now what I'm doing is with the same code, I'm just specifying change it only once. So when I call it, you can see that not everything, just only once the character has changed. So my substring hello world has been replaced with hi world, and my hello Python and hello Frank, it remains the same. And here are the important notes that I want you to get remembered. The replace method is case sensitive, and that's why when we mentioned hello, the capital H and small h, it didn't change the capital H, it just changed the small case hello. Strings in Python are immutable, meaning they cannot be changed after creation. The replace method does not modify your original string, it always returns a new string with the replacements. So we all are quite pretty much aware about it because we have seen that particular action repeated multiple times. Now let's talk about the split method. So split method is a built-in method in our string method. So what this split method does is it is used to divide a string into a list of substrings based on a specified delimiter. So you provide a string, okay? So to that particular string, you provide your particular separator that you want to get the string to be broken into. So whatever the character that you specify, it breaks onto that point. It divides a string and it creates multiple substrings, and it depends on the delimiter that I specify. You can call it a delimiter or a separator. So the syntax is string. So it is going to take my original string that where I want to have the split method taken place. So dot split method and then separator or delimiter, but by code you have to mention sep. And if you specify not, okay, we will talk about it later, but let's talk about the syntax first. Split, and then it takes two parameters, that is sep and a max split. So let's see what these parameters in detail. So sep stands for separator, and if you don't specify your separator, or if you mention sep is equal to none, so the default behavior is that it is going to split your string based on the white space character. So we already know about the white space character, right? So white space character is going to be like your sorry, your white space characters are going to be a space, tab, new line, your carriage written. So these are part of your white space character. So it'll remove any strings from any white space from that, and it will create a new list of substrings. So if you are having a multiple consecutive white space characters, those are treated as a single separator. So even if you have multiple white spaces continuously, each of them are going to be treated as a one single separator. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you mention single or multiple. So each of these characters, even if it mentioned as continuous one, it is going to be treated as a single operator. And if you provide the separator or your delimiter, your string is going to be broken at that particular instance of your occurrence of your separator. So empty strings might be included in the result if separator appears consecutively or at the beginning or at the end. So there are chances of creating an empty string. The reason being, if our separator appears consecutively or at the beginning and the end of our string. Let's talk about the max split. So both these parameters are optional. First, okay, so separator and your max split are optional. And when you don't specify separator, the default behavior is that it'll remove based on it'll split the string based on the white space character. And for max split, this specifies the number of splits to perform. So what do I mean by split? So for example, in L strip you learned about count, right? So the count is going to, sorry, in replace method. Sorry for the confusion. In your replace method, you learned about the count. So what it does, it is going to only make those particular changes for those number of times that you have mentioned. Similarly, for max split, what happens is that you specify the number, and until only until that point you're going to get a new substring. So what I mean is, let's say you're specifying white space to be your default separator, and you're mentioning max split to be 4. So the expected output would be 5. And why is that? For example, you have a single string, and when you're breaking it based on your white space, if I even cut once, what is the count of my substring? I'm going to have two substrings, right? In a simple analogy, I can put it like this: you have a single banana, you cut it once. So if you cut your banana once, what is the total amount of remaining bananas or subparts of your banana? You're going to have two, right? So same, when you mention a max split, you're going to always end up with plus one substring. And let's say you haven't specified your max split. So what happens is that it actually cuts down all your uh, split parameter that you have provided. So wherever you have provided your separator, so without any particular limit, it just removes, I mean, it just splits everything. Let's talk about the return value. So we all know that uh, string is immutable. So you're not going to have any in place modification, but rather you will create a new string. And your new string is going to have your list of substrings. So I'm creating a new string called as text, and this is having a statement saying this is a sample string. So I'm calling it into a new variable because strings are immutable. So I'm calling the string in which I want the action to be taken place dot split method. So if you see here, I haven't mentioned any parameters. So I haven't mentioned my max split or my separator. So if I haven't mentioned, what is the default behavior? The default behavior is that it is going to cut down on all your white spaces. And if you haven't specified max split, so this is going to be applicable to all of your string. So now when I print this, you can see that I've got a new list of substrings. So why I'm mentioning it as list? Because if you see here, I've got a square bracket here. So the square bracket denotes it's a list. And then what is substring? So if you see here, this is a sample string. So this is one big string. But now if you see here, I've got this, comma, is, comma, a, comma, sample, comma, string, comma, sorry, string. So I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got 4 cuts, so 4 splits, but 5 substrings. And now let's see how to, sorry about that. So now let's see how to remove all the characters. Sorry, remove our substring, okay, or split our substring based on a specified separator. So I've got a string here, data, which has apple, banana, orange. So now what I'm doing here is I'm specifying the separator here. The separator here is comma. So when I call it on my uh, data string, what happens is that I'm creating a new list of substrings. So that is having apple, comma, banana, comma, orange. So if you initially see, it was all one single string. Now we can see that it has got apple, banana, and orange. And now let's try to split it with the max split. So max split is maximum number of split actions that you would like to have these strings, that you would like to have in your strings. Okay, so I've got a sentence here saying 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it is all one single string. And now I'm calling it into a new variable called parts. And then what I'm saying is dot split. So how would I want you to split? So based on the default behavior. So I'm saying here space, right? So if you, so this is an empty string, but in here I've got a space, right? So I've got a space here, so pay attention to that. And now what I'm mentioning is the max number of splits that I want you to do is 2. And now when I print it, you can see that it has splitted it accordingly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you might be wondering, there is a comma after 1 and comma after 2, but 3, 4, 5 hasn't been splitted. Why is that? Because I mentioned 2. So if you use max split, you're going to end up with 2 plus 1, right? So n plus 1 number of substrings. So because I mentioned 2 here, I've got 2 plus 1, so 3 substrings. One second substring, and this is our third substring. If I haven't mentioned the number 2, then you can expect that all of my string would have been separated. For example, for the same thing, I'm just mentioning it. I'm just mentioning the separated. That is my white space. You can see there 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4, comma 5. And now let's see how it handles the consecutive separators with a specified separator. So what I'll do here is I'm creating a new variable called CSV line, which is going to have the strings value 1, comma, value 3. So I've got 2 commas consecutively. We already learned that even when you have multiple separators mentioned consecutively, they are going to be treated as a single entity. So let's see how it works actually in our code. So I want to split it based on the comma. So I want to split it based on this. Now when I run this, you can see that I've got value comma, an empty string here, empty substring, and a value here. So what has happened here? It has scanned for value. It found the first separator comma. It broke it down. So this is your first substring. And after this, you can see that even if when I had a multiple continuous commas, it has treated it as a single. So as long as there is a comma, it breaks it down and it has created an empty substring here. So to make it even more interesting, what I'll do is I'll repeat 3 times. So I've got a comma here. I've got a value 1, comma, value 3. So when I'm trying to split it based on the comma again, what happens is that I've got an empty string because I've mentioned a separator here. I've got value 1, which is right, and then I got an empty string. Then I've got an empty string here, and then I've got a value 3 here. So this is how you perform your dot split method using your separator and your max split. Now let's talk about the or split method. So our split method is concurrently same as our split method, but the difference is that it is going to start your splitting from your right end. But if you notice in split, it started from your left end, right? So how am I saying it started from a left end? For example, if you notice here, I mentioned 2 max split, and because it has started from our left side, it has stopped here, but rather it didn't break out this, right? I'll just copy this code in case I'll try to explain that in our right split. So your right split is going to start from your right side rather than your left side. So the syntax is you call it in your string with or split. So with the split method, it is just split. With right split, it is just or split. So you're mentioning the separator is equal to none. So these are the optional parameters, right? Separator and max split are optional parameters. And if you don't specify your separator, the default behavior is it will remove all your white spaces. And then you have got max split. If you don't mention it, it is going to remove all particular, it is going to split infinite times. That is until your string is broken down based on your particular character. So there is no limit to it. It just does it to all of your string. So let's see. I think I don't want to explain this, but okay, in a short note, separator is the default behavior is you remove all the white space character that includes spaces, tabs, new lines, and carriage returns. And If you specify a particular character, based on that character, your string is going to be splitted upon. And max split is it starts from your right side, and based on your number that you specify, it is always going to get you n plus 1 number of substring. So if you specify 4 max split, you are going to end up with 5 substrings as long as there is a relevant number of split delimiters in your original string. And as your split method, your return value is going to be a string with a list of substring, and your original string will remain unchanged. Let's talk about the behavior with the max split. Uh, the behavior difference is very obvious in our split method and our split method, and especially when our max split method is used. While split performs max splits from the left, or split performs max splits from your right side. So as I mentioned already, your split method starts from your left side, right, from your leading side. And what happens with your R split is that it, it starts from your right side rather than your left side. So that is the key difference here. Let's run this to find the difference. So I've got here apple, banana, orange, and grape. The default separator I want to get it is based on the comma. So wherever there is a comma, it creates a separate substring. But what I've done here is I've mentioned max split number to be 1. So what happens? It is just going to stop here. So one time, and then you're going to end up with 1 plus 1. So n plus 1, right? 2. So you will end up with 2 substring. If you notice here, a single substring, and now you've got apple, banana, orange, comma, grape. And next one. Now let's see what is the functionality with our default behavior. So the default behavior is it removes the white space, right? So when I call on this, it removes the white spaces. So hello world Python, it has removed all your white spaces, and it has created a 3 substring with hello world and Python. I've got the same example as you have seen it previously. So I've got apple, banana, orange, and grape. I want to separate it based on a comma, that is my separator. And what does it count? I just want you to split it twice. So when I call this, the behavior has started from our right side. So grape is a separate substring, orange is a separate substring, and apple and banana are a single string. So because I wanted it to be splitted only twice, it has created a 3 substring. Let's talk about the split lines method. So the split lines method is a built-in method in our string method. And what it does is that it is used to split a multi-line string into a list of individual lines. So when you have a multi-line string, and what you want to do is you want to create a list of individual lines. So what is your character? What is your functionality with your split method? It splits based on your separator, right? Similarly, what it splits, right? Similarly, all your multi-line strings are going to be created into a individual line. So whenever there is a line break, okay, the default behavior is it will try to recognize your line break characters. That includes new line denoted by \n, your carriage return, that is your starting of your new line, and then even if you have both of them at the same time, okay, \r and \n, you can break your multi-line into your list of multiple list of individual lines. So here is your syntax. So syntax is string dot notation, split lines, and your keypens. So split lines is your method call, and your keypens is an optional parameter which we will discuss now. So your keypens is going to is an optional parameter, and this is going to have a boolean parameter which is going to determine whether the line break character should be included in the resulting list element. So for example, uh, your backslash n is a new line or a breaking character, right? If you mention based on the boolean value true or false, if you if you specify true, what happens is that your line break character will be included in your string. If you specify false, your separator or your breaking character will not be included in the list of your line characters. So let's see what it returns. And you all know about it. Strings are immutable. So what happens is that there is no room for in place modification. So you will be creating a new set of strings that is going to have all these changes already in place. Let's see a basic usage. So what I want to do here is I don't want to have any of my line breaks. So what is our parameter for that? It is a keep ends. So what I'm doing here is I don't want to mention it. I'm just saying that okay, here is my string. First line backslash n, second line backslash r, third line backslash or backslash n, fourth line. So the default behavior is it is going to remove based on my break character. And now when I specify that, I'm creating here a multiple line, right? A list of multiple lines, multiple individual lines, I should say. So first line, second line, third line. And because I haven't mentioned the true here in my keepends, which is an optional parameter, these breaking characters are not included in my print statement. Now let's see what is the behavior when I mention true here. Now what happens is that all your breaking characters are included. So if you see here, I've got line A with my breaking character included, line B with my breaking character included, and line C doesn't have any breaking character, so it is not included in this. Now let's see how this works with our empty string. So now what happens is that it is an empty string, so it is not going to make any difference because it splits based on your breaking character, but you haven't mentioned any, so there is not going to be any change at all. And now let's see what happens with a string that has your only line breaks. Okay, say I've got your text4 string, and if you notice here, I've got a backslash in and a backslash r. So one is a new line breaking character, and the next one is carriage return. So text4 dot split lines method, and now I have created here a print statement. So split a string with only line breaks. So this is your default behavior, right? So let me put this separately so it's understandable. Okay, now this is our default behavior, and now you can see that it has broken it. So my because it is continuous, it has created a separate string here and it has created a separate substring here. And because there is no characters left in here, it is all empty. So if you see here, it was all separated. So we got a separate string, right? But in here, because they are consecutive, I've created a two new substrings. Let's see what happens when I mention keepends. So when I mention keepends, what is going to happen? All these characters are going to be included. So if you see here, it has broken it down, but it has included my break line characters. All right. So this is how you use your split lines method. I hope this session was very useful to you. Feel free to check out on our video when you're, because as long as you learn at least 70% of the content in a live session, and I would recommend even after some time, go and have a look so that, you'll refresh your learning theory. So what are the methods that we learned today? So we learned about the split method. We learned about the or split. We learned about the left split. And then we learned about replace method. And then, then we also learned about the split method and our right split. And with the strip method, we learned about strip method, right strip and left strip. So feel free to check out. And soon I'll be posting these, you know, all the collab notebook into my LinkedIn profile. So it'll be easier for you to access the material rather than writing it all down and making a fuss over there. And I don't want to make your learning a very hard journey. Okay, it must be smooth. So I've got the materials ready. I will soon post it in my LinkedIn so you can get access to it. So soon I'll be posting you the link. So before we end the video, who are we? We are Data Valley, the fastest growing edtech company of 2025, and we have got our headquarters in Hyderabad. So we have got 4 data centers over there, and our actual headquarters are in USA and United Kingdom. So if you are nearby anywhere, feel free to check out on our company and do visit our website to see what kind of career solutions that we can provide to you. So we provide you with IT solutions, career counseling, placements, and training as well. So our colleagues will be more than happy to help you with that. So happy learning. Have a good evening. Thank you so much. This is Franklin signing off. That is all for today. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.